Hey everyone, Krista here. This is the first course in the calligraphy series aside from beginning hand lettering. So I'm going to go through all the lessons, and obviously there's a supplemental workbook as well, which I'll mention later. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is the materials and the supplies that you need for this course. So the first thing that you need is a pen holder, which I have a couple of. The one that I'm going to be using is this small one right here. It comes in a set, I believe a speedball set. You can get it at Michael's. I have a different nib than the one that I originally bought with it. But as long as it's really like a pointy nib, it doesn't really matter what you have. These are larger ones, and you can use these if you'd like. Just again, make sure you have the pointy nib. I'm going to stick with the smaller one because it's a little bit more what I'm used to, just because the smaller the nib, usually the smaller the characters are that you're able to do with it. And I do a lot of envelope lettering, so this is usually what I use for that. Here is your calligraphy ink. It doesn't really matter what kind you get as long as it's black for these purposes. I like this one. I haven't used many others, but there's a wide range of black inks out there, and it's really up to your preference. I think black ink is black ink, but hey, maybe you'll find one that you really love. It totally does not matter to me though for this lesson. I have my black ink in just little wells. This is a pen cleaner. I prefer using a pen cleaner to just rinsing off my nibs with water because it does take it off a little easier. It requires a little less elbow grease. But water would work just fine if you want to use that instead of getting extra supplies. I have that in a little paint holder as well. And then I like to have a pen and eraser on hand. This isn't going to be super important for this lesson necessarily, because we're not going to be going over a lot of layout related items. But it's always good to have in case you do want to mark something out for yourself. And then a ruler to a straight edge or some kind of T-square would work as well. But this is really, again, only if you want to be drawing lines for yourself, but there are practice pages included, so you don't really have to worry about that for now. One thing I will say about this course is that it's modern calligraphy, so there are going to be a lot of different interpretations of what modern calligraphy is, but traditional calligraphy is what we would follow perfectly if we wanted these perfect letter forms that don't necessarily look like your handwriting. But I think that with modern calligraphy, it's just important to kind of put creativity into it and follow along what is natural for your handwriting style, and I'll show you kind of what I mean by that later. But I don't want you to trace, and I want this to be an artistic interpretation of handwriting. That said, I'm going to go over my letter forms in this lesson, but don't feel like you have to stick to this. I want you to be able to get creative and branch out into making your own letter forms if you don't like exactly how all of my curly cues look or exactly how a certain letter looks. You can kind of decide for yourself what you are going to make your alphabet look like.